Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know I use great products. I take my vitamins and I drink plenty of water, but I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? Well, I've got great news. I have a solution. It's the new Premium Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. I went recently and it exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. Amazing, right? My skin feels so soft and silky after. You have to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they have different options at Hand and Stone, like hydrating and brightening. But if you're struggling with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, or maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, book the Diamond Glow. Schedule now by visiting Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana. A podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians, certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial located right here in the East Texas area. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com.
Well, welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. It's me. I'm Ashley.
Welcome back, Ashley. I'm Mandee Montana, of course. It's so good to have you in the chair.
Yay. It's so good to be here. This is my little home away from home.
It is, and we see each other a lot up here, but it's been in passing because we've both been kind of in different seasons of life.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a different actual season that we're approaching. We're getting ready for spring, and the last time you were here was end of year, so it's been kind of fun because we've been sort of in transitional conversations.
Yeah. And I was driving down my street this morning, and I actually made a mental note to go back and get my camera because the trees on my street are always such a great depiction of the seasons. Like, they just do it really, really well. And right now it's this juxtaposition between these like totally dead trees and then the ones that are blossoming, all of those white flowers. And I was driving down and it just made me smile. And my instant thought was, oh, like life is coming back.
Yeah. And the weather's been so weird here in East Texas for the last probably 6 weeks. I mean, it's felt like borderline summer and then the dead of winter within 2 days.
Yes.
Like 48 hours, the temperatures go from 17 to like 80.
Yeah.
It's been really kind of bizarre.
And it will do a number on your mental health. It did for me this year more than I think it ever has before. Like, I mentally was just not doing well. Like, I thought that life is horrible and I don't like it. And then the next day the sun came out and I was a brand new person. I just went and stood in it. Just let it, we don't get enough vitamin D in general, but then especially when like the sun is hiding so much and it's cold and rainy, and I don't know, I do think that flip-flopping really messes us up too on so many levels.
Yeah, it's messed with me too. I feel like I've just had dramatic mood swings.
Me too.
The other day it was raining and it was cold. But it did feel kind of like almost like this nice farewell to winter for me. I spent some time reading and just drinking some coffee and relaxing. And I really needed a day like that because I've been really hustle and bustle a lot for the last probably 2 months. And so to just have a day where I actually just kind of relaxed a little bit was good.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little bit better with that. I know you and I have talked about that off and on with the podcast, but I struggle in transitions. And I think we've talked about that before too, where like when I have a big life change, sometimes I hold on too tight to what I know. And I have this like big fear of what I'm walking into, even though I'm excited about it and I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I know eventually it'll be better for me. There's this like gap there that's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because I have been thinking and mulling over something here recently that totally goes hand in hand with that. And I think what that is, that gap, the thing that we don't always see it for what it is, the name for that is grief. And it's not the grief of like, oh, we've lost a loved one. It's just grief is so much more multifaceted and multi-layered than we give it credit for. And I think because we don't give it the credit that it's due and we don't allow it in the way that we should, we really miss out on being able to process things, I think, in a healthy way. Like going from one job to another. Even if you're going to a better job, that transition period comes with grief that if we don't stop and allow ourselves to feel it and process it, we're not going to move on totally healthy. Because, okay, I'm getting this awesome job. It's new and it's better pay or whatever. But what about the friendships that you're leaving behind in the old job? Or just what about the fact that at the old job, if you needed to run like 15 minutes late and go get a coffee, you could, and now you can't. And you have to make that adjustment. You have to grieve that. And that's just, I don't know, but that's just what's been on my mind.
I love that idea because I've never thought about that in terms of grief, which frankly, I don't think most of us spend much time thinking about grief.
Yeah.
Or grieving.
Right.
It's probably something that we feel uncomfortable with if I'm putting words in people's mouths. But for myself, like that's not something that I tend to want to dwell on. I tend to want to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I think that grief in whatever form feels like a tidal wave that we can either give it permission to wash over us or we just keep it at bay. And most of the time, and it's easier now more than ever, we use distraction to just avoid it altogether.
Yeah, it's easier now than ever. It's in the palm of our hands in the form of a million different apps.
Exactly. And I see myself do it.
Same.
I literally have observed myself get to a place in my day and inwardly I am craving quiet. I'm craving solitude. And yet when I get to that moment, instantly I'm picking up my phone because what I have in there to deal with, I don't want to deal with it. But it's not healthy and it's not helpful either.
If you don't have the answer to this right away, I understand.
Yeah.
Can we talk about maybe healthy ways to grieve?
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on that?
I do. I have a few, I don't know, just honoring ourselves and our experience enough to say, hey, like, I know this isn't like a monumental thing. I didn't have, in some of these like maybe quote unquote smaller instances, maybe I didn't lose a loved one this week, but that transition from that house to this new house.
Oh yeah, moving for sure.
That's a big one. And it kind of came in like hit me sideways at how emotional I was when I left that house. And now I'm in this new house. And how about, okay, I'm going to be aware of that. And I'm just going to sit and I'm going to ask like, all right, what is it that I need to grieve? Like, what is it? And it's just, I think it's little things like pulling up to that same front door that you pulled up to for so many years. Or when we moved a few years ago, it was, I'm moving away from the home that I brought all of my children home from the hospital to. They all learned to walk in that house. Yeah. There's things to grieve. I think just recognizing it and not just like dismissing it.
Yeah.
And I think in that we also wind up validating ourselves and our experience and our feelings when we're really good at invalidating ourselves when we ignore it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think that next step is? Do you sort of capturing that in some way? Is it journaling? Is it talking through it? Is it, what do you find helpful?
I think some people are like journalers. I think that when they get a pen in their hand and they can put their thoughts to paper, that it just, it just helps. I had a day a couple of weeks ago where I did that and it really did. It was like just a total thought and feeling dump onto paper. I'm getting more and more impatient as I get older. And so journaling frustrates me because it takes longer for me to write and my thoughts are so fast. And I think one of the best things that I've done for myself lately, I'm still doing therapy, which is awesome. But I got together with a friend who, she's one of those friends where you've known each other long enough that you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to put any caveats on anything. Like they just get it. And I literally said everything out loud that I had been holding in.
Oh, that's nice.
That I didn't feel like I could say you know, other places, to other people, you know. And honestly, and her response, okay, like some people are the unloaders, some people are really good listeners. Typically, I'm the listener. Typically,
You are a very good listener.
I'm the one just like, and I love to listen. I do. But then it builds up in me, and I get to the place where it's like, if I don't unleash what's going on in me, I'm going to absolutely explode. But my friend, her response to all, and there was a lot, all of the things that I unloaded was so great. She looked at me just so lovingly, and she said, you know what? I don't have any words. I wish I did, but I'm not going to sit here and try to come up with something to like make you feel better. I just want you to know I'm here. And I was like, that's all I needed. Literally just to be able and safe and free enough to unload and just talk with a non-judgmental person.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It is. And I think it's sometimes hard to be that friend. Like, I just want to honor her because if you're somebody like me that is a natural problem solver, I enjoy puzzles and problems and problem solving. I like to fix things.
Yep.
It's hard for me not to try to come up with a response. It's my natural inclination.
Yep.
And sometimes I have found, especially in my close personal relationships, when I do that, it can come across as almost critical.
Yeah.
And like they hadn't thought of that or something.
Right.
Where it's just, I'm not stopping myself and being what they need me to be in that moment. And so that's something that I'm working on. So I'm really glad you shared that because that is something I definitely. Hey friends, it's Mandy. Have you ever wished for a protein drink that's light, refreshing, and crystal clear? Well, the wait is over. Zingular's Clear Protein Plus is finally here. With 20 grams of grass-fed whey protein isolate, 0 artificial sweeteners, and powerful digestive enzymes, this isn't your typical protein shake. It's clean, smooth, and easy on your stomach. Plus the flavors, blue raspberry and frosted lemonade. So good you won't even believe it's protein. I love how refreshing and hydrating it is, especially after a workout or a busy day. No fillers, no bloat, just clean, high-quality protein. Want to be one of the first to try it? Order now by clicking the link in show notes, Zing with Mandy. Subscribe and save to snag 10% off on this and all future subscription orders. Plus, use my code, Zing with Mandy, all one word, to save $10 off your first order. It's all in the show notes. That's Zing with Mandy, XYNGWITHMANDEE. Zing with Mandy to save $10 off your first order. Click the link in show notes. Don't miss out on hitting those daily protein goals. The future of protein is clear. We need to continue to work on.
I'm working on the same thing because I, for years and years, just felt like, I mean, I think a lot of times I felt like I had a good answer. Yeah. So I wanted to share.
Because you care so much.
I do.
I understand. I truly do.
Internally right now, I'm just patting my younger self on the head like, oh, you're precious.
Yeah.
But that is something that I'm working on too. Being okay and comfortable enough to just say, hey, man, I don't have anything. I don't have any good words for that. And I don't want to try to, because that's what she said too. She's like, I just don't want to sit here and try to conjure up something that's really not going to be helpful. I'm just so sorry. I think that, just like acknowledging somebody and validating that, like, yeah, I could see where that would be so hard. I can only imagine. We've grown up with a lot of these like pat responses, like somebody passes away. And then somebody else says, oh, well, they're looking down on you from heaven. Not helpful. Just
no,
absolutely, teetotally unhelpful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Or
that's a classic.
It's a classic. Or something happens and somebody says, like, oh, there's a reason for that. There's a purpose behind that. And rather than saying those things, just, with like the example of like losing a loved one, I've seen this in like a chart form. I wish I had it, but it was like, I'm so sorry for the loss that you must be feeling right now. Or with another situation, rather than saying, oh, like there's purpose behind it, I'm sure, saying something like, I can only imagine how much that must hurt, or that must be disappointing, or just sitting with people, being there and not trying to like talk them out of it. I've one thing I've done this year is all of a sudden I was like, I want to read the Bible. Like, I've never read it cover to cover. And I consumed it in 30 days in January.
Wow. How did you do that?
I listened to it.
Okay, that makes much more sense. Like, that's a lot of reading.
This mama don't got no time to sit and read. I mean, it was a lot to consume every day, but I downloaded the dramatized version. So it does like the voices for all the characters.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a podcast.
Feels like theater.
Like a theater.
Yeah.
Like when the snake is in the garden, is like, did God really say? It's like, but like one of the things like in the book of Job, which I used to hate that book and now I have a lot of appreciation for it. But Job has like 3 friends in that book that get in a whole lot of trouble. And it's mostly for just talking out of their ass. And saying things that in the moment they felt like were like
maybe helpful but weren't.
Or righteous or whatever, but they just flat out were not.
Yeah.
And I just more and more, I'm like, I'm a good listener, but in my responses to people, I want to be like a good, safe space to just contain. Sometimes in friendships or relationships, really what we're there for is just to contain somebody's stuff. We're just a container, because in that moment we have the capacity to do that. I can contain what's going on with you today, and we may not come to any conclusion or any answers, but man, I am with you because I love you and I can contain your stuff.
I love the way that you're phrasing that, because I've heard it also phrased holding space for someone. It's the same concept. It's just another way of phrasing it.
Yep.
And it's true. On different days, we have different capacities for that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Some days I'm much more capable of holding space for someone who's struggling than on a day where I need to be held in my own space.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have those days too.
Yeah.
There's a book by Brene Brown that I read, I think it's been about 3 or 4 years ago now, called Dare to Lead. And she tells a similar story where she was I think she was traveling for work with one of her friends who was part of her team, and she was trying to get back on time to watch her daughter compete in some kind of activity. And she'd had everything planned out like to the minute. She was going to make it there. She had like a fat head to carry to the event. Like, it was a really big deal. I think it was maybe her senior year or something. And she got stuck in an airport.
Ooh.
And she couldn't get there. There was no way. And she was really frustrated and angry, and I think may have even sort of spoken out of turn, maybe with a gate agent or something to that effect. And her friend just looked at her and was like, we can't fix this one. I can't fix it, but I can sit here with you. And this sucks.
Yep. That's it.
And
That's
sometimes
it.
and she was just talking about how powerful that moment was to have somebody just sit with her and just say, yeah, this sucks.
And you know what? I think turning that now back, to this concept of grieving at different times of our lives, we have got to be able to do that with ourselves. Turning that into looking at our set of circumstances today and being real and honest and honoring enough to ourselves to say, this is hard.
Yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah.
I don't like this, but because we don't.
Yeah, I usually don't slow down long enough to do it. And
No.
you're right. But
And-
that acknowledgement makes a difference in how you then move forward after.
Yeah. You want to talk about
it
how to
does.
have grace for yourself? It starts with that.
Yeah.
Because, until we actually get real with like, I'm a mom of 3 and I juggle these things and I do this and do that. Like, you do that long enough, you're going to be like, shoot, I'm doing pretty good.
Yes.
But like we're never going to be able to do that well for others if we can't at least do that for ourselves. But I think that we have been, shaped to it's almost a badge of honor to like shoulder off, oh no, that's no big deal, and just keep on bulldozing through and keep on, like, I'm going to make partner and I'm going to do this. And women are the best at ignoring their own crap, but it does us no favors.
No, it doesn't.
And then in turn, it doesn't train us to be good friends, good sisters, good moms that can listen and contain when others are needing. I love to be that person when someone's talking to me like a friend and go, girl, do you not see all of these things that are going on with you and how you are killing it? Like that point of perspective for people, we have to be able to do that for ourselves. And it is harder, definitely, to do it for ourselves.
It is.
But I just think that...
You are great at doing that, by the way. You've done that for me many times.
No.
Thank you.
Well, you've done it for me too. When I come up here spewing all my...
We all have stuff. I have another friend that's really good at it too. She jokes about how many jobs that I have. Mm-hmm. And I don't think about it on a day-to-day basis because I'm just doing the do.
Right.
But I do wear a lot of hats. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
When I'm not, I can sometimes feel kind of unsettled.
Yep.
And she was like, I don't understand how you do what you like. You're just doing all these things.
Yeah.
But I am also not a mom of 3 or 2 in her case, so I have more capacity to do other things because that requires an amount of effort that I will never understand.
That's the other thing I've been mulling over.
I can imagine, but I'll never truly understand it.
Well, the thing that I have been trying to dissect in myself is, why do I wear so many hats? Is there something in me that feels like wearing all of these hats somehow makes me matter? It's been
That's the question?
It's been this whole question of like, where do I actually derive my sense of worth or my identity? Is it in the stuff that I do? And it's so interesting because my oldest, we are having conversations pretty frequently right now about, babe, like I'll tell him, do you understand that it's not the stuff that you do, good or bad, that makes you good or bad. And he can't compute it right now. He's very afraid to try new things right now because he doesn't want to be bad at it because he thinks that makes him bad. And I'm like, baby, no, like we all are going to like fall short. We're not going to be the best at something the first time we try it. And I'm like saying all of the things, and yet it's just dawning on me recently, holy crap, that kid has picked up on this from me somehow. And I wonder if I love the things that I do in life. I love being a mom. I love being a wife. I love my business, my photography business, and I love being in this podcasting world and whatever that might do to help. That's just my hope, is that it's anytime I get on a mic that it helps at some level. But I have been I took a step back and going, Ashley, why are you doing all of these things? Is it because you have the grace and the capacity and the I don't know, like the talent to do it? Or is there something in there, though, that makes me think that by doing all of these things and being all of these things, quote unquote, somehow makes me more worthy?
I had a feeling that was the word you were going to use. And I'm sitting over here listening and at the same time thinking about something completely relatable. There's a book by Jamie Kern Lima called Worthy that she released about a year ago. And I was just thinking, wouldn't it be fun for you and I to read that? Because this is something also that I struggle with too. And I don't think you and I are alone in this. I'm sure men experience it too. I just don't know what that's like. But I think a lot of women struggle with self-worth and the difference between things like self-confidence and self-worth.
Yes.
Right? Because it's different. Very similar in some ways, but I can project an air of self-confidence and not necessarily
100%
feel like I'm worth it.
I'm so good at that. I did it today. I did a job that I was in there. I was killing it too. I was doing great.
Well, you look beautiful.
Thank you. But
You're
I was
welcome.
like, it was like an element that like I don't normally dabble in, and I did it, and I was like, I rocked that. And inwardly, I'm like, ugh.
Yes, I understand. I think it would be fun for us to. I have the audiobook and I actually bought the hardback book because I really like her and wanted to support
Yeah.
her as well. But I would really love for us to, if we have time in our busy schedules, to maybe do that and then come back and talk about it. Because
Let's
I
do
think,
it.
and she's got a podcast too. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe it might just be the Jamie Kern Lima podcast. I haven't really listened with all the things, but worthy. I've been wanting to read it. I've started it a couple of times, and it's just, do you ever do that with books?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll start one, and there's another one I started. I did a podcast with Stephanie Taylor was here with me, and we talked about a book that she loves called The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. And I was like, I'm going to read this. And I downloaded it, and I got through like the first chapter, and I was like, there's action items, and I'm not going to be able to complete the action items. And I know I need to do the action items before I move on to chapter 2.
I got too much crap to do.
Inevitably, with a lot of personal development books, that's what holds me back from finishing them, is because I feel like I'm not supposed to move on to the next chapter until I do the thing.
You were such a good student, weren't you?
I really was a very good student. I was. My teachers loved me. But yeah. But I'm dealing with these things in different ways, transitioning into kind of a new career and a new field. And it's interesting for me to think about these concepts of grief and kind of that gap and the tension there in context of what I've been experiencing, because it's been very different. I've had a lot of people not understand why I didn't go get a media job.
Yeah.
I've been asked that a lot. And what I've sort of observed about myself in the last few years since I've been not working for any particular media company, been kind of working for myself, is that I really like everybody in the local market. And if I go to work for one of them, I can't work with the others.
Yeah.
Because they're in competition with each other. So I was like, I feel like what I want to do is do something totally different. Then that way, if I want to do freelance work with any of them, I'm available.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a couple of people when I said that, like shared that as a response, they kind of were confused by it. They were like, oh, okay. That never even crossed their mind that was a possibility. But
well, and then I feel like that presents the challenge of, do I still feel okay about my decision even when other people are like, they don't? How much of my feel good about what I'm doing comes from other people's okay?
You know, I've been okay with that.
Yeah.
That particular, there are other things, not so much. But this particular response I have felt pretty good about, just because I've been watching the writing on the wall in the industry for so long. I mean, I was 25 when the massive cuts came down across the country, and it was the first time I had seen it in my career. It had happened prior, but it had sort of stabilized for a while. And then in 2008, it was just, you know, the word bloodbath was used because so many people were just out of jobs immediately. And then I had drinks last night with a friend who has actually launched a new radio station in town. It's a small station. It's 95.1.
Nice.
And it's a great FM. And it's like pop music from the 70s, 80s, 90s to today. You can also find it at greatfm.com. So we were talking about his idea and how he was moving forward with it. He was like, I just told him, I had to do something different because there are less and less jobs. And he goes, and AI is taking even more of them away. He was telling us about technology that's being developed that have shareholders that are trying to pay more people that aren't actually doing work.
Yeah.
They're going to have to progressively go more that direction. And so moving into a technology field for me felt like going towards a direction of growth rather than regression.
Yeah,
but
I get that.
Who knows?
I get that. Yep. So, yeah, grief and self-worth. You know, just a few of the many things going on, swimming out around in our brains at any given time. But I think both deserves some thought time, you know, some just time to like sit down and go. Because I think sometimes, you know, I know like talked about with the weather being bad for a couple of weeks, you know, feeling really down. And sometimes I think we just feel down and we just leave it at that. But I feel like if we'll just stop and kind of poke at it a little bit and dissect it and go, but why? Like get curious about it. I think that's really important.
I'm always a fan of being curious about something before moving on.
Yep. So if anything, if you're feeling some kind of way, maybe take a look at if there's anything in your life that you're needing to grieve, or maybe just know that you are not what you do, but just you is enough.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.